Hello, everyone, and welcome to another Helm to Tower podcast. We're here to talk about all things Destiny 2. It's another week. A week has gone by, and we've gotten more fun information about Destiny 2 as we get closer and closer to that August 22nd showcase. I'm Mike Burgess, your host, and I'm here with Auri O'Neill. Hello, Auri.
Hi.
Hello again, everybody. Thanks for joining us as always for another episode. And this was a fun week, I think. I think the past few episodes and just weeks in general for Destiny have been a lot of Destiny Critic Hour discussions and being very critical of the game. And not to say that isn't needed sometimes when the game's doing some weird stuff with the game, but hey, sometimes it's also nice to just have like fun things to talk about and positive sentiment around the community in general. And I definitely think this week was that in general. What'd you think, Auri?
Yeah, I think for sure. I don't know how the PvPers are taking the Titan changes. I have not put my ear to the ground in that regard.
Yeah, I've not really looked at it either. Yeah, you're referring to there's some changes coming in. We had a Dev Insights blog that dropped this week that we're going to talk about. There's definitely a lot of exotic armor changes, but also some like ability changes with Arc Titan and Strand as well. A lot of changes for next season. So we'll definitely talk about that. But I thought we'd start off with, I think, one of the bigger news things that we learned this week. Bungie revealed that Zavala is getting a new English voice actor, and that is Keith David, a pretty famous actor in his own right, and also has done a ton of voice work over the many years. And now, like, he's just been in like a ton of stuff. I was like pulling up his IMDb as I was getting ready for this show, just to like scroll through stuff. Like, obviously, with the Halo and Bungie connections, he was the Arbiter, the voice of the Arbiter in those games. Pretty much through the ones Bungie did, and even the ones Bungie didn't do, he was the Arbiter the whole way through. He was Admiral. Who is it? Admiral
Anderson.
Anderson from Mass Effect. He was there.
Mass Effect. That's I'd say like where I know him the most. Like when I think of Keith David, because he's like a very big part of all three of those games.
Yeah.
He's especially Mass Effect 3. He is a huge part of Mass Effect 3. So
right. Yeah. The thing I definitely think of is Halo first, but then like I also like weird old sci-fi movies. So like he was in The Thing, the old 80s movie. So he was
so good. That's
so good in that. Yeah, he's really good in that. He was really good in that. He's done like I know like our some of our members in our, well, I guess it's not a Twitter DM group, it's a Discord group. Our Raider group is now
rest in peace.
Discord. Long live Discord. They definitely called him out as he was in the Gargoyles animated series.
That's
as the main,
as
like the, I believe so. Yeah, he's like the main guy. He's also I also knew him because he's the voice of Spawn and Spawn in general. And a lot. He's basically anything Spawn has been in. He was the voice of. So yeah, just tons of really good voice work, but also just been in movies. I literally literally last night I just booted up Hulu and was like looking for stuff to watch. And they have I think it's like a kind of like a sequel series. It's not like directly picking up, but it's the show Justified. They're doing like a sequel series. It's called like Justified City Prime Evil, and I just watched the first episode, and he's literally in that. Like he's just like some judge in the episode that like the Timmy Oliphant, like the main guy who plays like the character in that the not the FBI, but he's like a marshal. He's like helping him like deal with stuff, and it's literally, I was literally like, oh wow, yeah, Keith David he's in everything. He's a prominent guy, so now he is the voice of. He'll be the voice of Zavala starting in the Final Shape and beyond, is what Bungie said. They put out like an official little article on Bungie.net, kind of detailing that. Now that Lance Reddick has passed away, rest in peace as always. We missed. Definitely will be missed for sure. But I think this was like I think this is like kind of the best outcome to an extent, right? Like I think like Keith David can definitely take up the mantle and do like that character justice, I think. And like it's cool to, like he has that kind of legacy with like Bungie and stuff. And like just voice acting talent in general. I think he'll make a really good like Zavala and like where we take that character in the future. Because it was always that question, right? Of like, now Lance passed away. What's going to happen? Are they just going to? A lot of people were like, oh, they're just going to kill him off randomly in a season. But that doesn't feel fully right to me, at least in my opinion. That would have been a little weird. But even though it was just like a weird circumstance kind of thing, or will have been like he would have shown up and like I don't think they ever considered like doing like some weird AI voice stuff. Of course, I definitely don't think they would have done that. But
as you shouldn't.
Yeah.
To make that
for just
listening.
Yeah, even for especially for like actors who have passed, but like definitely just not in general. That's pretty gross. But yeah, he's going to be taking over in the Final Shape, and it's good to see like having the Final Shape kind of be this like end point for the series, and Zavala obviously being one of the most prominent characters of the franchise.
The heart of Destiny, I would say.
Yeah, for sure. I'd agree with that. Yeah, definitely.
Especially now, like season of the Year of the Witch Queen, like for sure. I mean, before then, definitely, but like if you want to be iffy about it, like Season of the Haunted, like is very much about Zavala.
Yep, for sure. And like and Defiance too was like he was a pretty big role in.
But Chosen especially, which was Beyond Light year. I was gonna say it's so funny, not funny, but very coincidental. I was going to bring this up last week. Because I was browsing Reddit, which you shouldn't do. Also,
don't do that. Don't. Warning here from us.
I go on the cesspool that is Destiny the game subreddit, so you don't have to. And a thread came up, a not toxic thread came up about like, hey, do you think they should recast Zavala? And I would like when I thought about it the first time before this, after Lance passed, I was like, I don't think so. I think you should maybe write the character off. It just didn't feel right when it was so raw. It's been like 2 months, maybe.
Yeah, it's been a couple months now,
and probably longer, honestly.
Yeah.
And I was reading that thread, and people were like, yeah, I think Zavala is too important, and he's such a great character. And that was like the response from a lot of people, which I was very happy to see because it shows how much everybody, us included, care about Zavala. And somebody in that thread was like, yeah, the only person I could see being able to handle it would be someone like Keith David. And I hadn't considered Keith David, but I love Keith David. Love him. Shout out to also the Saints Row games, if you've ever played them, where Keith David appears as Keith David.
Yeah.
And it's incredible.
Yeah.
So that had put that in my mind, and it really did was like, oh yeah, that's like maybe the one person I could see do this. And then it turns out it was him. I was like, okay, that is
sick.
Actually, no qualms. Like it's going to be very different, and it's definitely going to be weird.
Yeah.
It's going to be like kind of a different character and hopefully a slightly different take. But for someone to pick up like the emotional nuance and the kind of fatherliness of Zavala, like he's every Guardian's dad. That's how we in the community think of him, for better and worse. And like when him and Ike are fighting, it's like mom and dad are fighting. Everybody,
oh no, please.
But like that is such a unique and that's part of Destiny. It's so interesting when those characters interact in that way. Like, and it's interesting to hear that we could potentially still have 2 seasons of Lance writing Zavala in some form, which is exciting. It means we get a little bit of a send off with him. But like especially the last scene from Season of the Deep with Zavala, Saladin, Saint, so good. One of my favorite, Zavala scenes out there. And it just like it's such a tough thing to embody. He's gotten so much backstory and so much lore. So like the feeling that it's like, yeah, I don't want them to just like write off Zavala's story. It is become like his struggle of faith has become, in a way, to me, the core story of Destiny, right? Like, obviously, light and dark, but every interesting, especially science fiction story, is like some kind of philosophical reflection on the universe. And that, like, I brought it up when we got to the end of the Season of the Deep story. Read the lore book for Season of the Deep if you haven't already. This is that last piece of the lore book that has the revelation. It's a conversation between Ikora and Zavala about this is where the witness comes from, and that the line from Zavala at the end, written, not delivered, but written, still to his character, of like, I always thought the Traveler was coming to us to raise us up, to aid us, and instead it was coming to us to ask for help. And that's like, we've seen this curve of Zavala and his faith and all this. He's such a great, like, foil for the story of this world is bigger than you, of like this small character who had a son, had a wife, and lost it all. So yeah, I'm really excited for his character to get the presumably ending of faith that he deserves, and to have someone as like who gives a shit about the same things like that Lance Reddick gives a shit about, the different kinds of like civil rights and things, and who cares clearly about the Bungie community, who reached out, did the cool Twitter video saying like, hey, I'm going to be Zavala now. It's nice to meet you all. I'm excited for this. And I love Zavala too. It's all good feelings. And I like that.
Yeah.
Very thorough as well.
100%. Yeah, definitely feels like they had the idea in mind. And yeah, where Zavala goes from there is interesting, because that's like a totally good point from like a story perspective that you brought up, of like him kind of reconciling with like this notion that he's had for so long of the Traveler, and what purpose we have as like guardians or whatever, and how that's been shifting more and more as we've like getting closer to this final sequence. And now, where I was going to have this final sequence, man, I really hope we get, like, now that I know he's going to be there 100%, right, is still kind of, with all the like the questions up in the air of like, will he be there or will he not be there because of Lance's passing? We don't know. Just to have to see what it is and what they decide as Bungie decides how to approach this stuff. I think they did make the right choice by keeping Zavala in and continuing his story with an actor who does, he seems really, really happy to kind of take the legacy and continue that. And, I really love to see a moment of like that fire team together again one last time.
Yes,
like the Zavala. Now we know for sure, like Zavala, we see Ikora and Cade in that teaser they showed us a couple months back. Now I know Zavala will be around as well. Like I feel like there has to be that moment where they like come together for for like a big moment in that campaign. Now that's going to be really cool. It'll be really special.
Especially like you think about the Red War campaign, like the Destiny 2 campaign. That is like literally that campaign is bringing the Vanguard back together.
Yeah. And that was like some of the best moments of that campaign for sure. We're having them all together and being like the fire team they talk about, because they always talked about being a fire team, but that was like the first time they really showed it, and like now to see it again in this final moment in this bigger story, like could be really cool, really cool moment.
Because we know like not all three of them this time around are going to make it out, whether it be Cade just dies again or not. But
right.
And I guess we know Zavala is coming out. So Ikora, your days are numbered.
Oh, look out! Yeah, maybe she just wants to stay in the Traveler or something. Yeah, or could just mean like maybe they just don't have like the Vanguard as the Vanguard is not them anymore. Like they could still be around, but maybe they just go like, hey, maybe this we did that, we had this, and now it's time to like give it to the new era. We could totally have also like another thing I thought of was like having the more proper Cade send off to like give like Crow his kind of moment, because I know he's been very positioned as like the Hunter Vanguard,
passing the torch,
and like having that moment, having him come back to be able to give that moment and a more proper passing of that torch, and maybe doing it in other places too for like either Zavala or Ikora as well. and passing on to like a new group to have like a new Vanguard or whatever could be really interesting as well.
Yeah, and an opportunity for new characters and things like that, like Nimbus. You know, say what you will about Lightfall, I really like Nimbus. And every trip back to Veil Containment, my weekly drip feed of lore.
Yeah,
you're getting Osiris commentary, but also Nimbus and their reflection on what does this mean for my people and the truth and lies I've been told.
Yeah, it changes like everything we knew. Yeah, everything they knew about that stuff. Yeah, for sure. Really interesting game. Yeah, I think we'll have one more thing next week because that'll be the last week for the season. So it'll definitely be interesting to hear that next week for sure. But yeah, there was a lot of other news this week. Again, yeah, we talked about, we can get into this exotic dev insights article they did for season 22 abilities and armor changes preview. That is the article I'm trying to talk about here. But basically, they kind of, similar to the start of last season, they kind of went back and looked at some exotics that maybe weren't getting the limelight or were maybe underperforming, and they kind of gave them some new stuff and kind of positioned them in a better spot and gave them some buffs, essentially. I will say I think this slate of ones was maybe not as exciting as those, but to be fair, we haven't actually played with them in the game, so I could come out feeling very differently about a couple of these, depending on how they feel once we get them in the game. Vesper of Radius was updated in that, and I didn't touch that all season, and then, very end of the season, now I'm playing with it. I'm like, okay, yeah, you know what, this change was very good. It's a pretty good exotic now. So it could be a scenario with a lot of these exotics in here. But let's get into it. First, they start off by describing the hunters, the 4 new updates to these 4 exotics that the hunter has. First up, we have the Knucklehead Radar, which I totally admit I forgot that one existed. And then it was like, any of these existed. the one with the big like flashy radar on its face. Okay, I do. I remember what it looked like, but I don't remember. I didn't remember its name
or
what
Star Wars
it does. Right? Yeah, sort of, kind of. But Knucklehead Radar, the functionality of the Foe Tracer exotic, another one I did not remember what it was either. Helmet has been completely removed.
The Star Wars looking
removed from the exotic and added to Knucklehead Radar on top of its existing benefits. So again, let me just pull.
I got you. This is what I'm here for.
Okay, great.
So Foe Tracer, Relentless Tracker, visually marked targets, deals more damage to low health marked target. Provides a small benefit to airborne effectiveness stats on all weapons. So that's the Foe Tracer exotic. So that now applies to Knucklehead Radar.
Yeah, and I guess that makes sense because it is it has the big radar thing you're using. Yeah. So sure, okay, yeah. Why not?
Knucklehead Radar. So in addition, it also will still provide radar while you're aiming. Enhances radar resolution when crouched.
Nice, got it. So sure, yeah, that's fine with that, having that all be in one now. But that's because Knucklehead Radar is getting the Foe Tracer stuff because they basically took a seasonal artifact mod and applied it to Foe Tracer. So what's more or less happening here with the buff it's getting. So I'll just read here. We took some cues from the popular monochromatic Maestro artifact park from this one. When you deal damage with one of your abilities, you gain a damage bonus with weapons that have damage types matching your subclass damage type. Additionally, when you defeat an enemy you've damaged with one of your abilities, either with another ability or with a weapon with a damage type matching your subclass, you'll spawn one of the collectible objects associated with your subclass, such as ionic traces and fire sprites. So that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, they're basically, that was last season. One of the
the Maestro one. Yeah, it's one of the later tier ones where you'd use you'd match your ability and your weapon type, and you would buff the damage of I think the weapon or your abilities and stuff. It kind of looped in itself. So this will do that, but also then generate the things for you, like ionic traces and your stuff. So yeah, that could be really strong on some like across many abilities. Like I'm thinking of like being able to just use like a void weapon with a void thing and using like throw your grenade, get a grenade kill. That can give you volatile rounds. Then you make a trace, or you make a void breach from that, from the volatile rounds and from the thing, and then you're buffing the damage on top of that and getting devour. So like there's definitely a lot of loops that I'm like kind of thinking of already.
And
that could be really fun.
There's obviously the new perk from this season on some weapons, collective action, that gives you a damage buff when you pick up a subclass item. I feel like
a
whole new swath of potentially raid weapons with that perk on it could pair with this really well and be really fun. So I actually have my eyes on this one. I'm never going to use it because I never touch my hunter, but
I definitely want to see people like think of some builds with that. Like I definitely could see the potential there. Lucky Raspberry, another one I had to like double take and look up again. I was like, oh right, this is like a chest armor.
Yes.
That like
very ugly chest armor.
Never like literally no one ever used. Yeah, because it had like it was not really that great. But this exotic was a little too unreliable in its current form, so we've taken a crack at streamlining its energy gains while leaving some of its benefits intact. The exotic still expands the chaining abilities of arc bolt grenades, but now instead of basing the grenade energy gains on those chains, each time you damage an enemy with the lightning strikes from the jolted condition, as well as each time you pick up an ionic trace, you gain additional grenade energy. We've also given this grenade the intrinsic ability to stun overload champions. Now that right there sounds very useful and interesting.
Yeah, so the original perk increases the chaining capabilities of arc bolt grenade and has the chance to recharge it each time it deals damage. A full change always recharges. It's definitely like, I imagine pairing this now with any gun with Volt Shot, right? And you're kind of generating grenade fun automatically. That sounds kind of fun.
Yeah, and then on top of just using the grenade, will give you back a bunch of energy if you're jolting a bunch of targets with it, and you have the fragment that makes it so your grenades jolt. Like you can do a lot of stuff with that. On top of now also stunning overload champs. Yeah, like that's good.
Without needing to have jolt.
And that's as you need it in the first place, right? So yeah, definitely could be interesting for sure. And then Renewal Grasps is we've done the previous nerf Dustfield Grenade cooldowns when using this exotic. Yeah, that's cool. Like that's just
and all of PvP weapons.
Yeah, PvP is gonna feel that one for sure, and that when throwing around those giant ice domes. But I mean, I like using it in PvE even for my Stasis Hunter. Like that can be like useful in some scenarios. So I'm all for that having that like a better cooldown for that Dustfield Grenade. This one here is the only one I'm this first one for the Titan here. I'm a little like about mixed about it because we have now encompassed 4 different exotics across the Titans repertoire. We have Icefall Mantle, Doomfang Pauldrons, Path of the Burning Steps, and Eternal Warrior. So in last season, the start of last season when they did the first exotic pass, Path of the Burning Steps and Eternal Warrior already received this change, and now they're including Icefall Mantle and Doomfang Pauldrons, which funny enough we talked about these last week right at the end there. It was funny these came up. But yeah, essentially
we always talk about it before they buff it.
It's very funny how that worked out. But basically they added a escalating damage bonus to arc and solar weapons respectively when you get kills with those damage types. We like that this gave players another way to get surge like bonuses, but the Eternal Warrior seemed to have the most reliable way to get up to tier 4 damage bonus. We've made some further changes to these perks to make them a little more reliable, while also expanding the functionality to 2 other exotics. So basically here's the breakdown. Icefall Mantle grants an escalated bonus to stasis weapons damage when getting rapid stasis kills. When you activate your class ability, you immediately gain the highest tier bonus. Yeah, that's still I'm not gonna lie, that still does not get me to use Icefall Mantle just because of the drawbacks Icefall Mantle has. Like the only way you're gonna get me to use Icefall Mantle, and I think a lot of people are gonna feel the same way, is removing that penalty are like, that's just the reality of it.
Eat your shield and then you slow down.
Yeah, you slow down and you can't like do like, I think you can even do like a secondary jump, but you just get an overshield for casting it on yourself. And I think it like technically is a better it might be a better overshield than some of the other ones, but like still for the drawback is like you basically like can't move around and you just become a static thing. And now you just like buff stasis weapons a lot, where it's like I get there probably could be some like specific scenarios where it's like, yeah, you can use this with your chill clip fusion rifles and probably be okay, but like where like, where else you're gonna really use this? Like, yeah, I think for me it still just comes down to like, as long as Icefall Mantle has that debilitating kind of movement thing, I have no real interest in using it, regardless if they do. That's just me personally.
I'm thinking like optimal usage here would be eat shield, overshield, and then eat super with Aegir's Scepter and unload.
Right, sure.
Potentially in a well to get as many stacking damage bonuses. I think that would be like the most optimal usage case, but even still.
I don't know if
I want to see someone do that.
That's going to be an Aztecross like damage testing video for sure, for sure. And like that could be like cool for a moment, but then I feel like it's still, I don't know. I don't know if see it coming to fruition. Now this like the one out of all four of these I will say that has me most interested is now the Doomfang Pauldron variant of this, where it grants an escalating bonus to void weapon damage when getting rapid void kills. When you get a void melee kill, you immediately gain the highest tier bonus. So like that immediately plays into Doomfang Pauldrons again, where it is you use when you're getting shield kills, it gives you increased super back. So that makes like your super like much longer because you can just like hurl the shield around Captain America style and go crazy with it and keep getting your super back really fast. And that plays better with that, what I was saying last time, where like there's no real like synergy with like the actual throwing Sentinel shield like melee as much with Doomfang Pauldron, where now I feel like there can be with this, where you throw your shield, you throw your shield, you get the kills, you get an overshield, and then that super buffs your void weapons that you use with that as well. So that can be, I think, a pretty effective use of that. I will say, I think I don't know, like this definitely rises up as like a better, like, well, now do I want to use this versus that other void arm, the second chance that gives you like the 2 shield throws, and you get weaken and anti-barrier and stuff. I still think I might lean towards that a little bit more ultimately, but I at least want to like try this because like this could be interesting, for sure. With Path of Burning Steps, getting Solar Grenade kill now grants the highest tier solar weapon damage bonus. So that's also, I think that's just giving that an additional thing to what it could do before. I know people were not a fan of Path of Burning Steps getting this because it was technically like a big nerf to this exotic, even though it was not like a super meta exotic to begin with. Because of the surge kind of tier bonuses, damage bonuses they give, what was overall less than the damage bonus Burning Steps could give before that.
Yeah.
So that's just is what it is. And then Eternal Warrior, they're doing, since the exotic only grants its highest tier damage bonus automatically when your super ends, which is a rare occurrence. Duration of the arc weapon damage bonus when your fist attack super ends has been extended to 30 seconds, up from 10 seconds. So that's a pretty big significant time increase there. Man, they really want people to use Eternal Warrior. Like they really want it, man. Like, I don't know, like I just made a new arc build this season, but I'm using Skullfort, and that just feels like so much nicer to any more general use sense, because it's really just like you get a melee kill or an arc melee kill, and you literally just immediately start regaining health like immediately. And with a Thunderclap, like you can just so easily I can like literally just run around and do that near infinitely as long as I'm hitting enemies and taking enemies out with it. Like I just continually just have that punch, and I'm continually getting health back. I'm making orbs for myself that also like give me health back and super energy and other stuff, giving me like also getting like amplified and stuff. So It's just I give them a lot of hey, they're trying their best to get people to use Eternal Warrior. I don't know if this will get me to do it, but there are definitely people who are going to try it now. I just see that weird optimal setup of like what scenario am I going to be in most occurrences in this game where I'm like using Fist of Havoc, running around using Fist of Havoc to like do a bunch of stuff, and then benefiting from like a bunch of weapon damage right after I use my super. I'm trying to think of the scenarios where like that.
Maybe like an ad clear into a boss damage, like clearing an ad around people that are doing damage, and then you join them with like, what's it, like the hothead or something. You know,
right.
There's certainly a scenario, but you're probably not using Fist of Havoc is the reality.
Yeah.
You're probably using Thunder Crash so you can get it over with and then get back in the well and do more damage.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm thinking.
But I appreciate that there are other things you could be doing.
yeah. I think that's definitely what that falls back to. Of like they're trying to
Destiny players. At our core, we're very lazy, and when we find the thing that works really well,
the optimal. I mean, I think that's just. I think also like I will say like maybe not just a Destiny thing. That's just like MMOs, and like the MMO mindset is always like find the optimal strats, optimize, and like once that optimization has been set in and people have that, it's very hard to like get them off of that. So like I give them all the respect for like trying to push the stuff as much as they can. To do that without nerfing, just like outright nerfing like the things.
Yeah, this is
you would consider
productive.
Right. You would consider. I definitely prefer this overall. Like make these things potentially more interesting, and also like again with Lightfall, like definitely one of the positives was getting loadouts, and that definitely has like pushed me, like made me more interested in making more builds. Like I was saying, like I was gonna say. Once we talked about what we've kind of doing to get ready for the next season, I made that and not site first. God, I made the Vesper Radius Arc build on my Warlock to mess around with. That's very fun. I made another one with Felwinter's Helm that is like I saw this like really interesting build that's like synergizing like the finisher to get invis, but it also makes like the void explosion,
the volatile
to put volatile on it, but also because it's like that's considered a melee that procs Felwinters as well, and makes like the debuff. So you're literally putting like multiple debuffs on enemies at once, the same time, and you just become like an ad clearing machine because you can also be getting like killing the debuffed enemies makes the breaches, which gives you. Can continue to give you like Devour and stuff, and then you can also use the Child of the Old Gods to also. So it's basically just like a crazy debuffing subclass that like so you can kind of almost like play survivability for yourself with like Invis and Devour, but also kind of play like a very offensive and like almost even support too because you're debuffing so much stuff. So it just looked really cool. Cool idea for a build, so I made that up and definitely want to mess around with it probably in the new season. But anyway, that's Warlocks. We're still talking about Titans exotic updates that are coming next season. Let's get back to that. So next we have the one. This is definitely one I have not heard in quite some time. I feel like this was like a bigger one in year one, Destiny 2, and it's just not been like mentioned at all.
It was part of the Glaive update, so that's when I last heard it. Yeah.
So ACD feedback fence. This exotic got a complete mechanical rework and now ties into the armor charge system, increasing its versatility and making it more useful in scenarios where you might not be taking a lot of melee damage. With a new perk, which completely replaces the old, when melee hits give you an armor charge. Excuse me. When melee hits give you an armor charge, you take reduced melee damage while you have that armor charge. Taking melee damage causes you to emit a burst of arc damage that jolts targets, consuming your armor charge and dealing more damage based on the number of stacks consumed. Note that the damage dealt by the burst of arc damage should be comparable to that of the current damage of 0 to 3 stacks of armor charge. So that's interesting. So it kind of reminds me of the the mods we have now, where it's like, you do the like the kick, essentially like the kickstart grenades, where it's like once you proc this thing, depending on the armor charge, you're getting but this is like getting a burst of arc. So that's cool, interesting. But I don't know if that's something will get me off of the current arc build I have. But still cool nonetheless.
If it still works with glaives, which was like the last change they made to ACD feedback fence, that could be interesting. I'd be curious, like what the damage output of that, or how protective you can be with that. Right.
Yeah. That could be interesting for sure. Arc jolting glaive build coming in season 22. Last one, which this one's like mysterious in a way that makes me really want to get ready for it. I always like this exotic in general for the Titan. That's Hollow Fire Heart. This exotic often stands in the shadow of the more ubiquitous Heart of Innermost Light. To remedy that, we've removed its base energy to solar abilities and replaced it with a perk that will let you build more into sunspots. We think you'll be seeing many more sunspots in the battlefield as a result. As for the perk that greatly increases your ability to regenerate when your super's fully charged, we left that as is. So we're going to be able to make a bunch more sunspots with Hollow Fire Heart. They didn't really specify how that'll work. They're leaving it up to that. But I'm definitely, that makes me more curious. Because you can already, even with like, you're on a Titan and you have, your throwing hammer, and like you have like a scorched or incandescent weapon, you can make a lot of soul and sunspots as it is already. So that could be really interesting if you're going to be able to make even more on top of that now with Hollow Fire equipped, and on top of it having your abilities come faster with your super fully charged. That's cool. Yeah, I will definitely pull that back out to see what's up with that, because that was one I used for quite a while. I was not like most and jumped ship immediately to Laurel Helm when it first dropped, but I definitely did convert to it eventually when I started doing like solo dungeons and stuff, because that definitely where it comes in very clutch. But I always just liked Hollow Fire 1 because it just looks cool. I liked my look that I had with it. That definitely did a lot of winning me over. Is just the drip game, of course.
Of course.
But also I just like you can have like when you're running a lot of general content, it was really nice just because you're not really using your super all the time, but so you have your super up a lot. That's just constantly having your abilities regen super fast. With that already on Hollow Fire Heart, so you just have a lot of abilities going off pretty easily. On top of with specking with mods and stuff, it was still pretty potent. But yeah, that'll be a fun one, I think. So that's Titans done. Last we have Warlocks for the new ones here. We just got 4 here for the Warlock as well. First up, Astrocyte Verse. We've added 2 more pieces of functionality to this exotic, where I think normally this one is like the one where it's like all about blink, where you get like a better blink.
Improved blink.
Improved blink is all that's what Astrocyte Verse does now currently. Enemies near you, so this is what it's getting, so it's getting 2 more things. Enemies near you when you blink become volatile. Excuse me again. Additionally, when you're using the Nova Warp Super, the Dark Blink ability no longer consumes super energy. So,
and as a reminder to the kiddos that missed it last season, when Roman Supers got updated, a fully charged Nova Warp explosion makes enemies volatile as well.
Yeah.
Kind of like playing into the volatility fantasy.
The volatility fantasy of Blink. Yeah, that could be interesting. I've never really messed with Blink jumping a lot, so I don't know how I'll feel with that.
Will.
I do, and that's like the one thing I will say is I think Astrocyte Verse is just like a cool looking exotic, at least.
Yeah.
I like the look of it, but the Blink is definitely like, I don't know if I need that. I'm not into that, but
Nova Warp too. It's funny, like when I watched a bunch of people, give their commentary on this, they just joke about how no one uses Nova Warp.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But I mean, like, granted, I think like how this reads to me is like, I think you technically could just run this exotic and not run Blink and still just get the Nova Warp energy super ability. You'd obviously been losing out on like the blinking around and making enemies volatile stuff. But
it is like free volatility. Like you're just jumping and making people volatile with a 2-second cooldown on Blink. So that's not nothing. But like, catch me. Using Blink when I'm dead. That's just going to lead to a lot of deaths for Guardians who are not familiar with using Blink after all these years, for sure. I've given it, I feel, as a lifelong permalock, I feel like I've given it the old college try multiple times, and I just can't get onto it. So I don't know if this would push me to either do that, especially now that I set up that a different Void build with Fellwinters that I want to mess around with. So I don't know if I'll do a third volatile here, unless the season comes out and it turns out this is like super cracked or whatever. Who knows? But I don't think so. It. But you never know. You never know. X to doubt right now.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, we'll have to see. But next up, the exotic people finally wanted updated. They couldn't wait. They were shaking for Geomag stabilizers to get back their super sprinting. Oh, wait. While we've often heard calls to restore the perk that lets you top off your super energy by sprinting, the legacy of that incentive still creates some pretty silly play patterns. You wouldn't say, Bungie. Instead, we wanted to give players a way to get more super energy, no matter how charged their super is. So now picking up an ionic trace while wearing this exotic will grant Guardians additional super energy. Now, I know this is
laughing because Mike is talking directly to one of our friends right now.
She called me out last time, even though I wasn't actually directing it at her. So now I'm directing at her. You're never getting this. You're never getting it. They said it right here in this dang twab.
They said it,
they said it out right. Like, they took it off for a reason. I'm sorry. I get why it was, like, people liked it. You felt like you were gaming the system, running in a stupid circle to get your super back in this GM or whatever, but you're not getting it back. I think this changed. I think this is cool. I do think this is cool.
Yeah. This is, like... I'm thinking about pairing this with Cold Heart, which makes ionic traces like it's raining Christmas right now.
Yeah, you can make a ton with that, and like throwing a grenade in general, just like you can have that generate ionic traces. The super itself, I believe, when you have it stuck on an enemy, generates ionic traces. So you'll probably just get a bunch of... This will probably also help refund super back to you by getting those ionic traces after you get out of the super or whatever. So I think this, I think it could be cool. I don't...
It could be very potent.
But yes, I get it. It's not the thing what people want. But as they state here, they don't want that play pattern, and that's not what they want anymore. I'm totally cool with that. I'd rather them just that was an era of this exotic. It is not here anymore. Just let it live in the past and accept your new Geomag stabilizers as they are now. Just accept your new child as it is, right? That's all I'm saying.
The thing is, like, they really nerfed it because of PvP, right? Like, that was...
Right.
You could pop it and get a single kill, and then you can cancel Chaos Reach, one of the few supers you can cancel and get, like, half of the super back.
Right.
And then get a couple kills and then run to top off. Like, it was a very, very unforgiving loop in PvP. This, like, helps it not be as nerfed in PvE.
Yeah.
So I think it'll assuage some of those people. And, I think you'll end up getting your super a lot, depending on how much energy you get from ionic traces.
Yeah. And I would admittedly say... Again, I was there for many GMs watching other people on my GM team run in circles in this corner of a GM before we go into a fight to get your super back. I would also personally say that is, abusable, very abusable tactic, just as much as it was in PvE that it was in PvP. I think you can make that argument, and I think that's ultimately where they stand, where like that's what they're saying when they're not calling it out as like it was. They originally called it out as busted in PvP, but they're saying here, like, yeah, they don't want that tactic. Silly what was like the exact words
silly
were
play patterns.
Silly play patterns, some pretty silly play patterns, and they were. All right, I was there. I lived
classic SPP.
I lived through them with them, and it just has to. You just gotta let it die. It's over. Destiny's an ever changing video game.
Dead game. Get it out of here.
Yeah, I know. That's fine. They wouldn't they wouldn't fix PvP. They put Gambit in the ground, and now they won't even fix Geomax stabilizers.
I forgot about Gambit.
Garbage. Absolute.
that was what they wanted there. To be
absolute
fair.
Garbage game. How dare they? But anyway,
I'm
getting
surprised that they buffed Geomax again. To be honest,
I figured they were going to do something to it because enough people were like saying they wanted something done to it because it did not feel as potent as it was. I just definitely I think again it just took so long because again I think they just weren't going to do the thing because it was always a thing where I don't think there was ever plans to be like, oh yeah, we're going to revert that top off again, baby. Like no. So I don't think that was ever in the cards, unfortunately.
Mike, you say this though, like scroll up 500 words, and it's like we undid the buff to renewal grass. So like there is still a dark future ahead of us where that's possible.
Sure, I guess, but I don't know. Personally, I would say like, they clearly there was a difference between why they reversed that and reverse this. You're sure you're right. Like they're
sometimes wild.
Maybe they could just maybe they could do it. They could or make a new exotic that essentially does like the topping off on its own or something like that.
Yeah.
I'm
excited
something
about this though because this is in addition to it extending Chaos Reach. So
right.
Maybe I'll actually have a reason to run Geomax.
Yeah. Definitely worth putting them on again and seeing what it does. I definitely feel pretty content though personally with the Arc builds I have these days with the Getaway Artist, Arc Buddy kind of had clear builds, and now this Vesper build, it's just, it's very fun to me.
Pry Fallen Sunstar out of my cold dead hand. I love running that with Arc. I just love having big chunks of energy every Ionic Trace you get.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But anyway, we have another one that I totally forgot existed since the Destiny 2 Year 1 days. Wings of Sacred Dawn. Leaning into the orbital weapons platform fantasy, we wanted to help players have a way to stay aloft longer, especially in target-rich PvE environments. Typically, reloading was the main cause of the float to end. This exotic now automatically reloads solar weapons, including the weapons you are holding, from reserves each time you get a kill while aiming down sights. Try this one out with Xenophage, is what they say. This does sound pretty ridiculous now.
Yeah, it's same problem. I think it does give a little damage resist now. It didn't used to.
Yeah, I think they did add some resist on to it or something. That was
the first buff that it got. I was actually thinking it would be really fun to do this with Galahorn. You're just up there. And
I think somebody called also
a whole 7 rockets while floating in the sky.
Somebody also called out Eyes of Tomorrow and just having the volley rockets. Yeah, that could be wild too. I am a floating missile delivery service. Like there's a fun Gambit strat with that. I think for sure, but it's flying around. Yeah.
You're definitely gonna get in any GM you will get a headshot of it.
Yeah, you're definitely just getting wrecked if you're flying around with that for sure in most content. But yeah, I could see it being for some silly shenanigans just in general content or something.
Xena's a fun call out for this.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah, for sure. And then the last one we have here for the Warlock, Winter's Guile. Due to the nature of the Stasis Warlock's melee ability, this exotic was previously a disappointing choice for that subclass. We've added a new perk to this one specifically for when you are playing your Stasis subclass. Now combatants cased in your Penumbral Blast melee will automatically shatter after a short delay. Okay?
That's cool.
Yeah.
That is a fair call. I like Winter's Guile quite a bit. It also works with Glaives for folks out there. There's a lot of really fun solar builds with the Incendiary Snap because it's definitely one of the more potent melees out there where you can do the hop and do the snap and kill 5 enemies, get it back right away.
Yeah.
Because of the one aspect, and heat rises, and then you have like a fully charged, like absolutely wreck some shit up winter snap, like ready to go. So it being able to work in some unique way with stasis is actually cool.
Yeah, it's in the name, right? Winter's Guile stasis, like that's just like an easy. That's by an easy one. It is like, oh yeah, why not just have that synergy with that? So yeah, that's cool. I don't know if it'll give me the reason to do that more or not, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
And then of course
I'll try this out for sure. Of all of these, this is the one I want to try out the most.
Nice. Okay. And then the top off here is, as with any changes we make, we're going to be watching data and feedback. And then we're already working on the next round of exotic armor tuning for future seasons. So stay tuned. So they're going to be doing more exotic changes. So don't worry, Gwyn's Invest, your day will come.
There's always one.
I
swear to God, put Prometheum Spurs back on the list.
Prometheum Spurs back on the list. I mean, they touched back up these ones they did literally last season again. So like I think I definitely could see them switching back around to that for stuff for sure. So next up, they go into ability previews. So now they're.
This is the good stuff here.
There's a lot of stuff in here. I would say a lot of it is more focused towards PvP.
It's front loaded stuff.
Yeah, the front short
stuff is
definitely. I'll just call it. Here's the 4 things they say here at the top here before I'll get into the actual things here. Hey folk, combat gameplay team here to run through the ability changes coming this season 22 later this month. Before we get into it, the actual changes, let's go over the goals for this release. Reduce the uptime potency of barricade abilities, particularly in high-level PvP activities. Reduce the potency of Striker Titan in high-level PvP activities, both in neutral game and when supers come up. And correct the one-size-fits-all nature of Suspend in the combat sandbox. Rebalancing our Strand Fragment suite to bring up some of the underperforming options and normalize the potency of overperformers. So they start off here just talking about the barricades, and they go on to say, like, yeah, barricades is still just a really strong thing. And they've done already a bunch of stuff to it, like having, like, you know, certain things like anti-barrier weapons doing more damage to them in PvP, exotic weapons, origin traits, like subclass buff. They've done a ton of stuff. And so they are now also drastically increasing the cooldown for the towering barricades, so the taller one. They're doing that. That's going up from 48 seconds to 70 seconds. So quite a big increase there. The maximum health is being reduced from 600 to 500, but the damage resistance versus PvE combatants increased to compensate. So it's effectively staying the same in PvE, besides like the much longer cooldown. But
yeah,
you are going to be. But this again, it'll still ultimately kind of defend in the same ways. But yeah, that's this is very PvP focused. They said specifically they wanted this to be kind of the high level. There's a lot of high level play where Titan seems very strong right now in PvP circles, especially in like stuff like trials and like the lower player count competitive stuff. It just seems that strong. So definitely we'll do a couple more. They do a couple more nerfs here. Like they said, they focused on the Arc Titan. So they kind of do go over this. I don't want to go over every single minute thing here on it, but I'll just call out the nerfs they're making essentially. So they wanted to go after Thunder Crash here because they kind of say here that it has a lot of similar cadences to a roaming super because you can move around with it, so it can still be as effective as a roaming super, and some stuff like that. So they are increasing its base cooldown time from 500 seconds to 556 seconds, matching the majority of our roaming supers. So they basically just it's gonna take a little longer to get Thunder Crash. That's okay. And the last thing for Arc Titans is the melee stuff. They reduced the damage bonus versus players from the knockout. I think that's the aspect.
The melee aspect.
The melee aspect, yeah, and that's going from 50 to 30. So it's a pretty big downsize. But I know that was something that's still really effective in PvP because you can kind of do like a quick 1-2. and get like easy kills that way with that for sure. So yeah, those across the board. Again, we are not the hardest of hardcore PvPers over here, so these will just be changes that we'll have to see what other people think about those, right? And if they make any big significant dent in the issues some PvP folks have in that higher end stuff.
Yeah, so. It's one of those things like cooldowns. It feels like that is like the thing that affects both PvP and PvE, right?
Yeah.
Is really, we've gotten to the point where it's just cooldowns. Like damage is always like adjusted separately,
right?
And things like that. Except for like objects you can create and even say like they adjusted PvE damage to barricades, so that way that would feel not changed, but they would be squishier in PvP.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely feels like it's always to me like all right, we had to increase the cooldown. That's their like last case scenario. They don't want to do it, but they do it. But also,
they do it.
In PvE, cooldowns are not.
Yeah,
like,
you can totally build.
Matter.
You can totally build into stuff to like make this like not much a matter of a thing or like put on like I run mods that like help you get your barricade back faster if you really need it. So
and there's more waiting is more of an option,
Yeah, totally.
So I don't think it's going to be that much of a nerf. I think you'll definitely feel it, but also I wonder if this will make rally barricades more enticing. They have a much shorter cooldown.
I definitely think in some cases they could be for sure.
Especially on like Strand Titan, for example.
Yeah, for sure. But considering Strand Titan is getting also, I think they're going to be hurt the most from this because of the next part. Where as they said in kind of those four things is they kind of wanted to kind of crack down on all kind of intensive purpose use of suspend for Strand, and I kind of get it, having been here times as a X9 Gilded Conqueror as of this past week, and going through the GMs this past season, it's suspend kind of makes some of those GMs like a joke.
It's too good.
It's pretty strong, and they even call it out here, which I can read some of it here, but it definitely feels very eclipsing of something like Stasis and its use cases in endgame content because of where it is. And that's to say well, I'll get into the specific nerfs here. I still think suspend will probably still be fine, just because of how many ways you can approach it and have access to it. I'm not even running like the Swarmer exotic for my barricade to do the 3 burst suspend. I have Armamentarium on, which gives me 2 suspend grenades, and I still have my barrier. So there's 3 ways I can suspend just from that alone, or I have my super as well on a Titan. So I think you'll still have plenty of ways to use suspend. I think it'll just be a little bit more like you have to be more on it when to pop it and when to use it, rather than now where it is literally just there was multiple GMs where I was just willy-nilly just hucking a grenade into a crowd. All of them are strung up. We just clear out the entire room. Corrupted, which was considered at one point the hardest GM in this video game, I now can confidently say, after playing it this past week, I think it is now one of the more easier GMs in this game, and that is singularly because of Strand and Suspend Titan. It became a joke. We were
talking about earlier. I did a lot of grinding for Fallen Saber after we recorded last week's episode, it's I wanted to try out Vesper of Radiance, but I was running Strands the whole time, and I was just having too much fun. I talked about it before a couple weeks ago. I think of it is fun. I suspend an overload champion, and then an Arc Titan throws a grenade on it to jolt it, and it's suspended and jolted, and we're just bullying.
Yeah, and we're just bullying
these champions to this point.
Yeah, and you still
for 13 seconds. It's Jesus.
Yeah, you can melt them. You can melt them in most cases. So I'll get in here. Here's kind of the main things they called out was first suspend. We played with a variety of suspend times during Strand development, and then a long duration to differentiate suspend. from stasis freeze, offsetting the lack of the shatter equivalent with additional disable time. Even seeing the way it's played out in a live game, we don't believe that this is the right place for Suspend to live. We want it to shift both its uptime and potency for a few reasons. Suspend is currently a skeleton key that solves combat problems against all combatant types. Yes. Its current duration heavily steps on the toes of Stasis Freeze, which we want to keep at the highest potency disable in the sandbox. And the uptime of suspending atoms doesn't allow for meaningful player decision making when choosing when and where to place a hard disable.
Very true.
Literally what I just said.
Take a break, make a sandwich. Like that's what Suspend's at right now.
Yep. To address these problems, we're making a suite of changes to both Suspend and its supporting atoms to better carve out a healthier role for Suspend in the sandbox. The base of surrendering reduced significantly. We further reduced it against champion combatants to ensure that they remain a core focus in combat, a problem for the fire team's survivability that needs to be addressed with urgency. So here is the changes they're making here. So Suspend is getting its suspend duration versus non-champion PvE combatants reduced from 8 seconds to 5 seconds. Thread of Continuity now extends its duration to 7 seconds, now down from 12 seconds.
12 seconds.
You used to add with that. But it's still going to be, it's still going to be like, it basically now when you have Thread of Continuity on, it'll now be what it base was now without it.
Yeah,
which is still
under. Yeah.
I think it's still pretty strong. Reduce the suspend duration versus champion combatants from 8 seconds to 3 seconds. 4 seconds with throw grenade. That's pretty brutal. Increase snap damage dealt to suspended base combatants by 67%.
This I didn't even know that you could damage with suspend bosses. The snapping damage. I didn't know. I
didn't know that was the thing either.
You see the threads on them, and then they break away from it, and that does damage. I didn't even realize this.
I did not
going up
either.
By 67% though, so that's nice.
Yeah, so that'll be interesting of using it as like a big damage thing to bosses. I guess I have no idea.
Just like throw a suspend grenade during a DPS phase, I guess.
Yeah, sure. So they are also adjusting some two of the aspects. Or not aspects, fragments. That definitely helped a lot with the suspending stuff. Reduced class energy gain. This is Thread of Mind. Reduced class energy gain based on the tier of the defeated target. So minor combatants get used to give 15% more. I forget exactly what is Thread of Mind.
Thread of Mind is defeating suspended targets grants class ability energy.
Got it. Okay. So this is just going to be giving reduced class ability and energy from minor combatants is going
specifically targeting hunters on this one, I think, and Titans.
Titans. For sure. Minor combatants reduced from 15 to 10, major combatants 25 to 15, and then boss champions and mini bosses 50% to 25%. So pretty big.
Generous, man.
Yeah, that was a lot. So next up is Thread of Generation. Reduced overall energy gain per damage event against PvE combatant by about 20%. Rebounds the energy gain multiplier across primary weapon archetypes. We wanted to bring the energy gains for dealing damage with precision weapons and fully automatic weapons closer together.
Yeah, this is the dealing damage grants grenade energy.
Yeah, I think that this one's going to be felt across the board for classes for sure. I think more than most.
20% is not as much as I thought it would be, to be honest.
Yeah, but that's definitely going to be a lot. Overall, we reduce the efficiency of fully automatic primary weapons and increase the efficiency of precision weapons. So there you go.
So if you're using a scout, you're not losing out on energy if you were using an auto, for example.
Yeah,
that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure. That's definitely good to bring that more in line.
Here's the exciting stuff, though.
Yeah, so now, because they're making these kind of big nerfs to suspend. Now they're kind of going to be going through some of the other major keywords for Strand and trying to buff these up to kind of make way for potentially new ways to do it. So this could be an interesting shake-up for sure. In combination with these changes to suspend, we want to shift some of the potency to other Strand atoms to allow for more diverse of options for Strand users. So here we go. So the first one up is Threadlings. Threadlings damage versus PV combatants increased by 30%.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. I'll still be curious to see how effective that is, because I still think Threadlings can be a little inconsistent, but I could see that being. I mean, I think it'll be a thing where it's going to obviously feel way more effective, specifically for a Warlock, because they have things where you can immediately just make a bunch of them all at once and use that compared to the other classes. So I think it'll be felt probably way more on that, where on a Hunter or a Titan, I guess you could use Threadling grenades with them, but
Hunter's got the decoy makes Threadlings.
The decoy, makes a couple Threadlings as well, so that can make that a little stronger. They did also, we'll get to that. They did buff that a little bit more. I've been using that, and I do like that.
And they're buffing
that thing as well.
The fragment that generates Threadlings as well.
Yeah. So
I'm very curious how this affects Needlestorm. Excess damage that creates. You know?
Yeah, that's a good point. So this feels more than anything like a substantial buff to Warlocks.
Yes,
across the board for all these things.
Very excited.
Yeah, and then they reduced Tangle cooldown once again from that was 15 seconds down to 12 seconds. I still personally would like that to make that 10.
Yeah, 10.
Think it 10 seconds.
Or give me a fragment that reduces it more, you know?
Yeah. And then lastly, their Sever is getting now they're getting their damage reduced even more. Buff was originally 30%, now it's 40%, so that's kind of cool.
This is really interesting. I'm very curious about Sever because they're changing this, and we're going to talk about the fragments in a second, but the Sever fragment where it's get rapid precision hits to create a Severing burst, that is now going to be easier to trigger. Yeah. So I wonder if there's a strong scenario where you were pounding down a boss and you can sever it to actually not have to use a well or something. I think there's interesting applications.
Yeah, I still personally don't see that happening just because it's not that big of a damage decrease.
40% is a lot.
Yeah, but it's
40%. Let's say you're using a rift instead of a well, right? You still have something, but it could be enough to tilt the scales in survivability.
Right. Sure. I guess, and I guess there's that Severing burst, because the only ones I would know were there's the Hunter throwing kunai melee, they that severs when it hits an enemy, and then the Titan swipes. So I could see maybe that being more.
I want to try. I want to see.
Definitely more useful, but I don't know. I still feel like that won't be a big play in something like a GM still. You know what I mean?
Sure.
I think where that's still just going to be you don't want to be in an enemy's face at all at any time.
Sever plus Woven Mail though, it is a very having used that in even just something like Fallen Saber, it's you definitely notice a difference.
Yeah. So yeah, definitely across the board, I think these will be interesting changes to see. And then obviously we're getting we have not heard the details. We're getting 3 new strand aspects. Next season as well on top of all this. So how
Warlock's basically the second new strand aspect.
Yeah, I know, pretty much. So yeah, I'm curious. There'll definitely be some strand shakeups next season for sure. Curious to see all that. Next up, we still have even more things here for strand. We have they're basically buffing the Silk Strike super. Mainly with PvP in mind, where they increased the social damage resistance from 40 to 45%, reduced the suppression time between Silk Strike super attacks, and reduced the vertical lift provided by Silk Strike heavy attack to reduce distances missing the primary targets. So yeah, just kind of making it a little bit more easy to use.
Yeah.
So that'll help with PvP, and that'll also, I think that'll also be good in PvE also, because it's having a little bit more damage resistance, and the attack sitting faster. Next one definitely sounds cool. because it said threaded actually is performing well in PvP, but it needed more TLC in PvE. So the threaded runner, the threaded specter aspect is making the decoy with the hunter aspect. So they're buffing that. They're increasing the specter lifetime from 10 to 12 seconds. They increased the threaded specter health versus PvE combatants. They don't say how much, but they're increasing it across the board. Threaded specter now takes longer to detect a nearby enemy PvE combatants at the beginning of its lifetime. And then PvE combatants now will more consistently focus on the threaded aspect of the hunter, and allied players no longer have reticle magnetism towards threaded specter. So, I mean...
they say like the casting hunter is now effectively invisible to enemies for a couple of seconds.
Yeah, that's cool. And I mean, to be fair, from the limited... From using it this season with Strand already, it still kind of felt like that. So now to hear that it's going to be that even more, and it's going to last longer and be able to take more damage, and now those threadlings are going to do more damage. Like, yeah, I'm definitely going to probably stick with that. But it's tough to say because we don't know the whatever that last aspect for the hunter is going to do. But even so, it's going to be a hard sell now having these buffs to it. And having like the other aspect that gives you like the 2 grenade charges on Hunter, so you can have double grapple or double suspend nades. So now you can have double threadling nades, and that could be way more effective. So definitely gonna have to be a big sell on that last aspect for sure. So next up we have the Brood Weaver, the Wanderer aspect.
Woo! Here we go.
I mean, I already like this thing already.
I did too,
but now it's
great. But it's
just you throw a tangle and it spends a bunch of fools, and that's good enough for me. But now they're making it so when you destroy it, it makes a when you shoot it, you can destroy it, and that makes a suspending detonation around it.
It's bigger.
It creates a delayed suspending detonation, which like is cool. But they also just hella nerfed suspend, so like we'll see how that goes. Increase suspend detonation radius as well, and then the ward tangle detonation damage to match standard tangle detonations. So it's gonna do more damage as well.
This is great. This is gonna rip. I really think so. There's so many times when I'm doing this, like the thing I don't like about tangles is having to go up and get them.
Sure.
A, because I'm very lazy, but B, because it's usually in hostile territory.
That's fair. That's personally my favorite thing is to run up and grab a tangle and just either huck it with my warlock into a crowd or huck it into my friends as a titan and give everybody woven mail.
It's definitely fun, like getting a good wanderer off where you can grab one, you're holding on to it maybe for a second and like throw it at a champion. There's definitely great moments with the wanderer. But being able to trigger it from a distance, I mean, this is the artifact mod from last season.
Yeah, they basically just implementing that directly into that.
Giving it to the warlock. Regardless of suspend, nerfs, I think this. And they're making the area of effect of it much bigger by a meter. I think this is going to be extremely good.
Yeah, for sure. I think suspend will still be pretty all right in general.
I agree. I think it'll be fun.
But
they nerfed freeze, like way back when, and it's still great. So.
Yeah, still pretty useful. I think it just makes the strand or the suspend nerf makes it so like running stasis
freeze
could be
viable again. You
can run stasis and still feel like you're doing work. So your consistent beat back to the strand grapple melee wasn't working as players intended, particularly as hunters and warlocks with ranged melee abilities. Now pressing your melee input consistently activates the grapple melee lunge instead of activating your charged melee. So that's like the last thing they have here. Yeah, this never immediately happened to me either, so that was interesting, but sure, why not? But yeah, that's where that is at. And then lastly here they're updating a bunch of the strand fragments.
I got them pulled up. So if you need a reference, you let me know.
So thread of propagation now grants 10 strength. So
powered melee final blows grant your strand weapons unraveling rounds.
Nice. Okay. Thread of continuity no longer grants 10 strength.
That was the suspend.
Suspend lasts longer. Thread of wisdom no longer requires a precision kill to activate.
This is defeating suspended targets grants an orb of power now. Before it would be precision.
Precision. I mean, that's still really that's a big change.
Buff. That's a big buff.
Of course,
you have a much tighter window now.
Yeah, you have a much tighter window to get that. But suspend.
On ads, like on red bars.
Yeah, you can just like strand up like 3 dudes and just throw a tangle into them, and then you just got 3 orbs.
Very potent. That's very exciting. It's like the weekend with grenades and stuff, gritting orbs of power. Like that's really cool.
Yeah. Threat of Isolation reduced the number of precision hits required to activate by an average of about 30%. And it says it varies.
This is what I was talking about
by weapons.
Landing rapid precision hits emits a severing burst from the target. Now keep in mind, it doesn't have to be a strand weapon. Just landing rapid precision hits. I feel like Sever could potentially be hot next season. We'll see.
Yeah, for sure. Then we have Thread of Rebirth. The number of created threadlings now increased based on the tier of defeated targets. So minor combatants gives you 1, elite combatants or players give 2, and then boss champions or mini bosses give 3.
This is the strand weapon. Final blows have a chance to create threadlings. This is what I'm talking about. A lot of threadlings could be getting out there now.
Yeah, that definitely can mean threadlings are getting around a lot more. Be interesting to see. And also, we still don't know what the artifact perks for next season are, so there could be some other crazy strand stuff.
Will be in it.
Please. Yeah, stasis. Yeah, more stasis stuff would be fun for sure.
It hasn't been in it at all since the rework on artifacts, and it bums me out.
Yeah. It's been a while since stasis has gotten.
I get it. Strand's the hot new thing.
It's a hot new thing.
It kind of invalidated stasis for a minute. Hopefully, after these changes, that won't be the case anymore.
Won't be as much. You can still run a little bit more stasis. I mean, renewal grasp on hunters is going to be fun again. So I'm here for that. Yeah. But then lastly, they close out the article by saying all this is coming in season 22 and some more changes too. Tune in on launch day for a full list of changes and bug fixes, including a fix for the Celestial Fire Scorch not activating melee perks like Sunbreakers. Thank fucking God.
Forever.
Forever.
Since Season of the Haunted, I think.
Actually. Yeah, it worked. It worked for the first few weeks of Season of the Haunted, and then just did not work anymore. And then it just has not worked since then for a year plus. And they're finally.
To be fair, that was when the abilities team had to crunch to update all the Solar 3.0 aspects.
Yeah, they had to.
That's probably why.
Yeah, they probably had to. They're probably still working on a lot of stuff there for sure. Like I say, we're working on more changes for season 23 as well. But that'll be for a future update. So there'll be more stuff to come.
Patch in 23. Yeah, we'll have more.
But across the board, good changes.
Very good stuff.
I'm definitely busting out Hollow Fire Art for a build on my Titan to see what update that has. Definitely going to mess around with some more strand stuff because obviously we're getting a lot of strand changes and then new aspects. So cool building stuff.
Of strand and stasis. They did have too much overlap as far as how you would play that subclass as a shutdown class.
Right.
Strand having things like Sever and Threadlings and other things you can grapple and all these things should be different. It shouldn't just be suspend in a freeze.
Yes. Basically. Yeah. Basically, because it was really suspend definitly eclipsed a lot of the other things. Basically. It's better. It's better freeze, and so it eclipsed stasis. Why you use stasis so much on top of eclipsing a lot of the other aspects of strand itself? even though I still messed around with a lot of other strand stuff, I still used grapple a lot on my characters personally, and had a lot of fun with grapple and stuff. But suspend especially in endgame content. Yeah, it'll definitely feel maybe there can be a little bit more they can do there. And and then obviously new aspects, whatever they're gonna do, they could change up a lot too. That could be really cool.
Very excited.
just by the time you're listening to this episode, it'll just be a week out. So
I know
we're closing in. We're pretty close. But one last thing to talk about. They talked about in the TWAB this week. Once again, continuing with my TWAB. You'll never take it from me.
Sorry, I'm still gonna call it Twitter until the day I die. So we all have our horses, you know.
So they kind of recapped they talked about Keith David taking over as Zavala. They kind of recapped the that mainly, and then obviously shouted out that blog. But the big thing they talked about is they kind of gave us a lot more details about the exotic mission rotator, which they kind of said they would do in that state of the game, but didn't expressly say that, so it was confusing at the time. But here it is in this TWAB. So this sounds awesome to me. But yeah, so let me just go through here and explain how basically it'll work. A home for the it's going to start day 1 of season 22. So day 1 of season 22, again, August 22nd. Presage will be the first one up, back in the game. Definitely one of the best exotic missions, in my opinion, still.
Yeah, one of the best missions in Destiny.
For sure. So basically what it'll offer is they basically outline what kind of the whole thing with the rotator they're trying to do. So I'll just read all these bullet points here. So it'll be a home for seasonal exotic missions after the year's passed, and a place where over time we can bring fan favorite exotic missions back from the past. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. A source of seasonal exotic mission weapons and their associated catalysts, and a new consistent source of legacy seasonal rewards. To support these goals, and so that we can continue to add content to this rotator in the future, we need to create rules and modify how these activities and their rewards work. Exotic weapons entering the place will become craftable. Each mission features a normal and legendary difficulty, which I think all 3 of these did have that, right? Even in the
yes,
and even when they were in there, yeah. But then
Passage technically had like the original legendary difficulty,
right? Because it had the timer and stuff.
So that's gonna feel different, but
yeah. Each mission features a pool of legacy seasonal rewards, armor, and craftable weapons that have thematic overlap with their associated mission. So that's to be, I think, pretty exciting for some folks. Mm-hmm. And then each mission features the same reward behavior and mission dialogue and narrative move forward after each activity completion and reset after all the dialogue sets have been played. Legacy triumphs cannot be progressed. So yeah. So basically, here's actually the list of stuff you'll be able to get from each one. So first up again, Presage is up first. So this will give you the Dead Man's Tale exotic scout rifle that's now craftable starting this season, and it will include a new trait pool. So it'll have new traits that you'll be able to craft onto it. So that's pretty cool. It will have armor and weapons from Season of the Haunted. So it'll have all of the haunted weapons. So Nezarec Whisper, Bump of the Night, Hollow Denial, like a bunch of really good weapons from that season in particular are in here. And it'll also have
Denial. Get it.
Yeah, they'll also have, of course, the opulent weapons as well. So like Callous Mini Tool and Drang and Austringer, like those are also extremely good set of weapons in there. And it'll also have the Eidolon Pursuant armor set.
Which was the Season of the Chosen?
No, that was Eidolon Pursuant was the Season of the Haunted one, where it's like it's like the it looks like God, why am I forgetting her name? The Moon Lady, Moondust, Eris. It has like armor that looks very thematic of hers. I believe that's what that set is. But yeah, you will need to own Beyond Light or Season of the Chosen to have access to this. Interesting choice.
Weird.
For that will also come up with these other ones
you
here.
Could have just like bought Beyond Light. You didn't have to have been buying all the seasons and stuff, but still weird.
I think that would be like the one thing I would say is like overall with this, like the only thing I would gripe about is that like I would have just made this like you need to own the current expansion to get these.
Yes.
Just if you get the current expansion, you get all this. Like I don't think you needed to break it down to have these individual expansions needed for different exotic missions. But I mean, whatever.
Forsaken pack still exists. $20 for a raid.
Yeah.
So
in
a dungeon.
Very weird. Let's continue to keep that confusing for whatever reason Bungie wants to. I don't know. But anyway, next up, without come this. So I guess this will be the week 2 after the Presage. It'll be Vox Obscura. It'll have the Dead Messenger. That's the grenade launcher that I think you change elements on it by holding down the reload. This will now be craftable as well, and it'll have an additional trait. So that is now confirmed. We definitely brought that up of like this. Will this be craftable or not? We didn't know.
Yeah, we did
for
not
sure.
Know. Now we do.
But now we do. That's pretty cool. That'll be craftable and how.
Finally, I can. What's the goddamn catalyst on it? It's so useless.
It gives it gives a turnabout, I think, or something like that.
Fucking finally, I can get something better than turnabout. Imagine if it gets chain reaction or something crazy. Oh
yeah, that'd be cool. Or like even goes even further than that. Maybe it adds like stasis and strand to it or something, and those effects can end it. That'd be sick.
Well, it would have to change slots.
Yeah. Oh yeah. You're right. Yeah, you're right. That probably wouldn't happen.
But still, something better than turnabout. I'll fucking take it.
Baseline. Yes, they can do that for sure. I think on that thing, that's cool. So yeah, I definitely will be jumping back into these rotators to get these for sure. These craftable versions.
It seems like you only have to do one completion to get the exotic crafted, which is nice.
Oh, nice. Okay. Cool. I didn't even.
I say that at the end here.
Yeah, I didn't realize. I guess that didn't make sense to me. It's the wording, but that's how it works. That's cool. Even cooler. So for the rewards, you're gonna get Season of the Risen weapons, which is the Sweet Sorrow auto rifle.
Guns.
Yeah, Peace of Mind pulse rifle, Under Your Skin void bow, like all of these. Yeah, explosive personality, the grenade launcher. Yeah, these are all like extremely good. Weapons, and then the Tusk.
Some of my favorite in the game.
Yeah, the Tusk Allegiance armor set will also be in this pool, and you will need to own either Witch Queen or have owned Witch Queen or Season of the Risen to get this one. And then last up, third one, this will be Revision 0, which is still craftable, so it'll still be as it is. And I didn't realize this. This like currently isn't obtainable in the game at all, from what I'm aware. So this is probably why, because it was coming to this. But this will have the seasonal weapons from Season of the Seraph. So there's Judgment of Kelgrath, that Solar Glaive, Retrofit Escapade.
Very good glaive.
Yeah, very good glaive. Retrofit Escapade, the Void Machine Gun, very good. One of those. Disparity, also very good pulse rifle.
Very good pulse rifle. Yeah.
So yeah, a lot of great weapons here too. And of course the Achilles weapons. Also, again, Achilles SMG and the very good SMG, but like arguably like the best SMG in the game, pretty much still.
Yeah.
Even with like a nerfs it's gotten.
PvE,
Yeah, even with the nerfs it's gotten, it's still one of the best ones there. So that'll be available, and then the Warmind's Avatar armor set, which is another like kind of like a Warmind style armor set. Yeah, and you also need
the Tusk Allegiance one.
Yeah. That's like the Cyane one. Yep. And then you will need to own Witch Queen or Season of the Seraph to have access to this mission. So at least if you have Witch Queen, you get two of the missions, I guess. But yeah, to get Presage, you would need to also get Beyond Light. That's weird.
Which you should get anyway because you gotta get Stasis. But whatever.
Yeah. Still weird that they're tying these to legacy things. And then they also said they're going to be bringing even more back from the past, which I think that's pretty obvious to call out. The two big ones everybody want, like 0 Hour and Whisper the Worm.
What is exciting is it means more than likely those guns will become craftable for this mission.
Yeah, you very much have my attention with a craftable Outbreak perfected. Like, that would be really cool. I'd be really in for that.
Gold trial shader on that thing, I'm talking about. Have a little fun with it. I don't know.
Yep. I don't know if you can either. I don't think you can. I don't know if. I don't know. That's a good question. They should.
I don't think you can actually. You should be able.
You should be able to
because they have ornaments. Because Ostia Striga has ornaments. So
right.
But you throw an extra perk in Outbreak. Oh baby, let's talk. You like throw Subsistence or something fucking crazy in there. I am here. I'll put 20K on that tonight.
Yep. Give it to me now. Give me.
But here in it says weapon crafting rewards. First completion of the mission on normal or legendary will award the exotic deep sight weapon. Extracting or dismantling the deep sight weapon will grant the pattern. Done. So.
Okay, got it.
Easy peasy. But you then can repeat the mission for the like legendary weapons, and that could be random. You might get one, you might not. You'll get one every completion at least.
Yeah, and I think they did say in here somewhere that there's like a knockout system to it. Yes. So like if you
for the first one
for the first one every week, you will be guaranteed a red border of a pattern you have not completed yet. So if you've not gotten any of these weapons yet, definitely a lot of grinding to do there for these each week. But that you now have a more specific path to these weapons.
You can replay it for the chance to get another red border, but then it's like regular drop rates. It's like maybe you'll get a red border, maybe you won't, maybe you'll get armor.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
So I don't necessarily recommend that, but if you wanted to just sit there and run Presage for 45 fucking years,
now you can. And then it's good to know that these missions are just going to exist in the game now in perpetuity, right? Like it's good to just have these in the game. Like ultimately,
it's a catch-up node. It's great.
Yeah, ultimately, and they also treat it as a replayable like catch-up node as well, just to like be able to be like, yeah, Presage was like an incredible mission that they put in this game at some point, and now it's just here permanently. That's good. It should be. Same with like the Zero, the Seraph Shield. Like I thought that was a really cool exotic mission.
Vox Secure is fine, but
Vox Secure is like the one that's like, sure. But obviously, the
good lore in that.
Now the hope that we'll get probably 0 hour and Whisper maybe in the year of Final Shape, but they did say the ones would carry over, so that I'm probably safe to assume that I don't remember what the mission is, but the Vex Network mission we got
Avalon.
Avalon will be sticking around, and that'll be added to this rotator in Final Shape, and then Vexcalibur will still be in that pool with that. Makes total sense.
And it said like you level up the catalyst by doing weekly completions. So
gotcha.
I think on legendary, but so like for the catalyst for what's the pulse rifle?
Revision 0.
Revision 0. Thank you. So like that has 4 levels to it. So you do 4 legendary completions over 4 weeks. I guess over 12 weeks. Woof.
Yeah. Yeah. You're gonna be spending the whole season doing that every week.
Yeah, I guess 9 weeks because it's only 3 missions. But yeah, that's that's a lot. But at least there is an avenue to get the guns that were craftable that you missed. Some of them, most of them.
Yeah.
The exotics you missed, things like that.
Yeah, and actually play the game and get stuff rather than grind out a bunch of materials to go to a kiosk and get them. I think this is better in my opinion.
Fun,
yeah, for sure. So yeah, I like this. I'm cool with it. It was a little weird to have it tied to specific expansions you got to buy, but whatever. If this is how we get it, if this is what they need to do to like keep these missions in the game in perpetuity, is like tie them to some paid thing. Like, fine, just do it. At the end of the day, like I own the stuff, but
let's touch on a thing not in the TWAB that is rotator related.
Okay.
Root of Nightmares entering the raid rotation, now bringing our total to 7 raids in rotation.
Right.
How do you feel about this?
That's a lot of raids in a rotation, right? And like, that's going to work? That's going to make it tougher and tougher.
Chances to play any raid in rotation, to grind it or whatever.
Yeah, that makes it like
an entire season.
It makes it farmable, right?
Yeah. A lot of people were upset. Not a lot of people, the loud people were upset.
Yeah, but the people that probably already have everything from these raids in the first place.
Exactly. The people that are upset, but I do think there's some level of valid criticism in there of like, we are getting to a lot. It might be worth bumping it up to 2 raids in rotation now.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially since like, presumably by Final Shape, light level's not going to matter at all. So it's not going to be like a thing where you can
just
grind
farm dungeons,
Yeah. Yeah.
I guess you can only farm the current dungeon. You have to wait for the other ones.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. That's going to get up there too, and how they're going to do that. And then, they're adding this exotic mission rotator on top of that. Yeah, I'm curious, like, if they will.
I'm fine with there being a ton of rotators every week of like, hey, there's just a bunch of cool stuff that you can check out in Destiny.
Yeah, this week.
Some of it that you haven't seen, maybe. But for raids specifically in that, like, master mode is only going to be accessible for a lot of these raids for
2 weeks.
2 weeks out of a 3-month season, and people trying to go for those triumphs, let alone adept weapons or crafting weapons. Like, it does make it pretty tough.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
less those than Iron Banner now.
Yeah, you're right. That's definitely something. Yeah, I guess they definitely should maybe rethink that, even if it is simple as just adding a second raid to the rotation each week.
Rotation at a time, I think, is a great idea and is super fun.
Yeah.
But will they do it? I don't know.
Yeah, it's hard to say. Or maybe just have, I don't know, I was thinking of having like the master stuff just stick around.
Accessible.
Yeah, just have them be around rather than have to wait till like the rotation week for them to be available. Like, I maybe just have them be up any time for the raids that have them.
I would like that. I think that would be something.
That'd be something they could do. Those are definitely like the two options that come to mind. So I guess we'll just have to see if they decide to adjust that. Especially now where there's 7 raids in rotation.
7 in rotation, in addition to the 8th that we'll have.
Yeah, the 8th one. And then we'll have the season after that. They'll then Ghost of the Deep will also then be in the dungeon rotation, and that'll be just as many, right? Just about.
Yeah.
Dungeons in there, so yeah. I think they'll have to adjust that.
Again, I'm not complaining that there's too much great endgame content.
Yeah,
I'm happy 100%. For that,
yeah, agreed.
The system that they've had is getting a little small for the amount of stuff that there's there.
Yeah, definitely. Maybe you have to rethink that, how the rotation stuff works or whatever. But that's mostly what was in here in the TWAB this week. I'm looking forward to I like that. I like all that exotic rotator stuff. That's fun. I'm definitely going to go grab those updated exotics. Dead Man's Tale with new perks and Dead Messenger with a new perk. Totally down for that.
There's tons of fun stuff that put on, like DMT, like Focus Fury wasn't even around when Tech Gun came out. Stuff like that. So that there's, totally. I'm very excited to see. Oh, Kinetic Tremors on DMT would be really good too. Damn. Yeah, there's a lot of great stuff.
That could be really cool. Or just maybe just have new perks we haven't seen yet. It'll be new for the season or something. Definitely a lot of potential. We'll see. Again, we'll see pretty soon here. Just a week away. That's going to do it for like Destiny news. Have you been doing, I know you've been playing a little bit, I've been playing a little bit too. I think we're truly wrapping up the season. Anything particular that you knocked out this week that you want to talk about?
I just, when we talked last week and you're like, hey, did the GMs, it's double rewards. I was like, it is double rewards. I got to get this goddamn Flamekeeper title fielded, which I did. Everyone rest easy. It's not like Iron Lord. I didn't forget. And I didn't realize it was Fallen Saber. My absolute number one with a bullet favorite strike to grind.
Nice.
Love grinding Fallen Saber.
It's an easy one.
It's an easy one. It's breezy. It's got good encounters. It's one of my favorite strikes. I really like it. And it's one people know as well. So I didn't feel bad about going on I'm sorry.
LFG?
Yes, my brain's
no,
like
you're fine.
Cloud right now. But yeah, I didn't mind going on an LFG, played with a bunch of randos, some good, some not.
That's how it goes.
But I had a group that we ran like 5 times in a row, and we were beating them in like 12 minutes. Great, zero communication between any of us. Great, loved it. They were very nice. We gave commendations. It was very sweet. We emoted and dunked on this stupid big shank. Got a lot of great exotics. Happy to report, finally got a necrotic grip that was higher than 58.
Heck yeah.
We did it,
We did it. Thank you, double rewards.
Exactly. I got some really great rolls of the fusion rifle. Will I ever use them? I don't know, but I did get overflow and the one that makes the first shot go explode.
Reservoir burst, I think.
Reservoir burst, yes. Thank you for having a brain this episode. Not me. Couldn't be. That was fun. So I did that. Hit Guardian rank 10 with that as well. You know, check the box. Done with all that.
Yeah,
From now on.
That's exactly where I'm at too.
Thought about working on the Aquanaut title. I think I just have to get like a bunch of kills with weapons from the season.
I need to do the tier 7 thing.
It's not that bad.
I do kind of, yeah. It seems not bad. It's just I need to actually ask people like, hey, can I get people to help me do this?
Yeah,
that's all I kind of really need at this point. And I just have not as busy this week, so I didn't have time this week. And then it's like now it's like we're so close to the end of the season. It's like, do I care enough right now? Maybe I could just get this like maybe before Final Shape or something, and just like try and do a bunch of these titles. Because I still haven't even get what is a Queen's Guard or whatever. I didn't even go get that title either.
Legend Avalon. I have not done it either.
Yep.
I made some attempts a couple weeks ago. I didn't bring it up because they went very poorly.
Yeah, I have no desire to do that at the moment. So
yeah, I'm hoping that maybe we get like a really nice set of seasonal artifacts by the end of the year that make it kind of a breeze to go through.
So that's what I'm hoping for too.
Or they nerf the mission again. Please. So I love Excalibur, but now I refuse to use it because it's just got like 20,000 kills and no exotic catalyst in it. It bothers me so much.
Yep. Well, once it's in the rotator, then you can just do the normal version, and then
I don't want to think about how far away that is. And how much of a fake Destiny player I'd be if I didn't finish it before then. Yeah, so I wrapped that up. I got my rank 10. I got my Gilded Flamekeeper. I have yet to get the Last Right Scout Rifle from any of the core playlist activities. I am rank 15 with Vanguard after completing like 8 GMs. What the fuck?
Jeez,
that doesn't sound right. I didn't do the smart thing of like running a bunch of normal strikes to get the streak up so I get the ×5. But still, I'm like a little bit of the bar before 16 where I would get the fucking scout rifle. And I don't give a shit. I just hate the playlist grind right now. It's so bad.
Yeah.
Here's an idea. What if every time you did a Gambit match, Crucible match, or a strike, you just got a full rank? Just every single time. And hey, you're going to have to run 17 strikes to reset, but you're going to reset in 17 strikes.
Sure.
And on double reward times, it's like you get 2 ranks for every completion or whatever.
Yeah. Hey, if they did it for Vanguard strikes, I would love if they did that for the other playlists too, because I would have to play way less of that stuff, and I would be all for it. But they ain't going to do that. I don't think.
Who gives a shit? You know what I'm saying, Bungie? Like, look at me right now.
They do. They want the play time. Give us the play time.
Give us the loot.
Play more. Play more.
So I might actually not get the ritual weapon for this season for the first time.
Hey, you know what?
Since the Vex one on Shadowkeep.
Hey. And you know what? That's totally okay, because you know what? Probably we've done with every single one of those weapons since they've done them. Deleted it or just threw it in the vault and then never to be used again. Because that's what I did with that when I got it. Because I think I got it through one of those playlists at some point. I don't even think I actually took it out and used it. I just went like, I got this scout rifle. It looks like the one from the Spire dungeon, but worse. All right, here you go, and into the vault you go. Peace. And that was it.
I'll probably just buy it from the kiosk next season.
Yep, you're totally fine to do that.
That's it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I did my final 2 GMs catching up from the last episode. I did the last 2 I need to do, so I'm Gilded Conqueror 9. I did keeping the streak alive for Gilded Conqueror. I did not gild my Flamekeeper because I admittedly did not I don't give a fuck about gilding those ones anymore. I did the first time. I got the Reveler title. It doesn't seem like that one gilds in itself. At least it doesn't show that it does. So if it does, oh well. But I did not care. I did get like the base one, I guess, because I complete all the challenges. But I did not care about gilding it personally. Just because the whole set of titles is done essentially for me. But yeah, I did the last 2 GMs, Psyops Moon Battlegrounds, and Corrupted were the 2 ones I had left. Definitely was like, oh man, I guess these are the last ones. It's going to be a rough go about it. But boy, yeah, again, talking about Strand and Suspend. Like Corrupted, like with I was just me as the Strand Titan, and that was it. That became a joke. It's like a joke.
I mean, it's mostly unstops in there. So
yeah, it's a lot of unstops, and you can suspend up the barriers too. You can suspend the dudes that you have to break the shields in before you even break their shields. You can literally, they have their shields. Awesome. You can literally just throw a grenade on them and they're suspended, and you can just pass the balls and you just pop them and then just immediately burk them. Shit. Yes, exactly. And you can just nuke them as soon as they come in. It completely entirely trivializes that like one of like the most pain points of that strike was for so many months. Ugh. Like it was miserable. The other side of it is. They did make it so the boss has proper health gating, so you can't do the like nuke in the well with the thing anymore. That's not a thing anymore. But even so, like there's still like a pretty easy strat you can do with that, where it's just you still kind of go to that spot to do DPS, but you just do it in such a quick succession that she just immediately teleports. So then she immediately teleports, so you don't have to worry about all the ad waves in that section. Then you just go through the thing. And then as long as you survive her boops in that one arena, you're pretty much fine. Yeah. And that's what we ended up doing. And that was like, But yeah, it makes whole sections of that where it's like, I remember like, when we did it, we were like frantically, terrifyingly hiding back in that section with the dual ogres. Like we were like up in front, we were like up in the higher areas, no issue, because I could just like freaking string dudes up as they ran up on us. Or
of course
you can just clear them so easily now with like all these other things. Like it's literally like no joke has become like it feels like one that you could just easily like almost farm now. It's still like a long one because it's corrupted, but I would consider it now like it is significantly dropped in the difficulty meter of GMs these days. On the other hand, though, we had Saps Moon Battleground. That one is still pretty tough. I'd definitely say this season in particular. It was definitely the hardest one of the season for sure.
I tried to just do the regular Nightfall and the people I was dealing with.
It's rough because people don't fully understand how to do the moat dunking, because even in a normal strike that part takes fucking forever because like random people, Guardian rank 6 people who barely play the game casually like don't know they can barely do like a normal objective of like holding a plate. Telling them to then try and like figure out like, oh, you have to kill these very specific enemies, and they drop a thing, and then you pick up that thing to go dunk it, and then it's like that's lost on them a lot of times when playing. But yeah, that part is definitely like it's manageable, but like pretty stressful because you're just like the ads can just kind of come out of nowhere, and they're always and it's constant, so you just have to be on it, and like you have to have basically 2 people focusing and protecting the plate that the person has to dunk on, and the person who's dunking is usually an Invis Hunter. So that's the strat we did. We had an Invis Hunter. I was a Strand Titan, and we had an Arc Titan. And basically, basically at certain points when you dunk, a Hive Guardian would spawn. So it's basically that became like priority target number 1 when that would come up. And then when you completed like a whole set of the crystals, a unstop and a barrier would spawn in the arena somewhere. So you had to like. So once you did that, we basically just hunkered down at the one we were at and let them come to us, because that's definitely the play in that whole section. Is like you want to just let everything come to the plate. You're just trying to stay safe at and clear out as everything gets there. Boomer Knights are definitely the bane of the existence in that strike because there's just a ton of them and they're pretty chunky and can just kind of wreck you pretty fast in those encounters. And then of course, obviously, the priority, there's some ogres that show up in that sequence too. Pretty tough. I definitely think that's like the most challenging part of it for sure is that dunking sequence. Because then once you get to the boss room, the bosses, it can be tricky, but there's definitely a strat where you can just like when you first get launched into the room into like the mind realm, there's like that circular thing you can stand on. You can actually like fall back all the way to that platform through that sequence. So really, what you do is you just have multiple people just for the first half of the fight, just basically stay back on there to survive, and just we both just had wish enders, and we're just like planking down the boss with wish enders, while the person who's the invis hunter was like staying down there and trying to get her to like kind of stay in an area where we could kind of keep hitting her and clearing out ads for them. Because once you do that, she actually disappears and you get the Savathun aspect, and then that's when they come in with the invis. And what we did is we'd all fall in together, invis together, and then all go grab the spears first, and then hope to survive because she just constantly does these like big arc AOE damages, and if you get caught in that, you're done. Like it's just, there's no getting out of any of her moves. But as long as you can get like a little bit far enough away from her in some of those later platforms, you can just like huck spears from far away because they kind of track pretty well to her, so you just kind of track them and do that part. Then you basically just repeat that for the second part where, she goes out, the boss comes back in, the two just fall back, and then you have the second part where there's two on each side, the two aspects on each side. And what we did is there's like a room on the left side where it's literally just like an enclosed room you can actually like walk into. And the invis hunter essentially just hid in that room, while us two, basically like lemmings, would run to the spear that's on that one side and just quickly grab it and just start hucking at the Savathun that was right there and just try and take her down as fast as possible. And if we got killed, the hunter would just like stay out of the combat entirely, just in that room, and then invis and then come out and get us and kind of repeat that. Because at that point we had like a ton of lives, because you do get like a crap ton of lives. So we did that. We took her down, and then once you do that, the other one's super easy because she just stays on that side and you can just throw spears from the other side and they'll just track to her and you just kind of like stay out of her range of attacks and stuff. And then it's just kind of like playing your life while you're throwing spears because enemies can just kind of come out of nowhere and be like, hey, what's up? Start just blasting you. That definitely was tricky, but it really is just finding those little kind of holes where you can kind of hide in, or just like, if you have a sequence where you run out to get a spear and it's a bunch of enemies, I would just ultimately default to like not worrying about throwing the spear at the boss and just like throwing it right at my feet and just clearing out all the ads around us, while the other person gets a spear and starts doing damage. We just kind of alternate that kind of thing to an extent. But yeah, it definitely needs a lot of moving parts to manage. But we got through it. The boss room sounds like there's a lot going on, but once we were in it and we got like the set down, it was definitely not bad. It was definitely just surviving that plate, the whole plate dunking and experience, because there's times when it's just like there's just so many ads, it's constant, and you can just go from like 0 to 100 in that room, because sometimes you'll be like really low on ads, and you'll just be like, okay, there's not a lot around, this is weird, and then all of a sudden there's like 7 freaking acolytes right in front of your face, and they're just throwing fire grenades at you and shooting. You're just like, where the fuck did you all come from? Jesus. And Moss exploding with them and shit. It's a lot.
I can imagine that room, specifically the Savathun, idols or whatever.
Yeah,
that makes me. That was what I was like. And enemies just constantly spawn in that boss room.
Yeah, I really am curious which one they're going to choose for next season, because like I can't think of. I feel like because I don't know if they're going to go back to the well of the chosen battlegrounds, because I feel like those in my opinion will be way worse than even the other two kinds of ones, where I can look at like, okay, the Europa battleground heist, I think it's a heist one, right? Like I think that one would not be that bad. But then like the other ones, like the Earth one, I feel like that one would be pretty brutal just because there's a lot of sequences where there's a ton of enemies everywhere at once. And maybe it's just because I don't really think of it from like where you defend and kind of fall back to in those areas. Maybe it's just not thought out. You do. So I feel like that Psyops Earth one would be really hard. And then the other Psyops one is the Moon. That one would be even worse. I feel like...
Yeah, that would be the opening encounter of that is the fucking worst.
Yep. And then there's the two other heist battlegrounds, which there's the Moon one, which that one, that's the one I'm thinking of. The heist Moon one would be fucking miserable.
Yeah.
And then Europa one. The EDZ is Psyops. The EDZ is Psyops, and then there's the Cosmodrome Psyops background. That one would suck too because you got to defend that thing. And
the payload
one. Because you basically like move up and have to like clear. I don't know if you can clear out everything in those sequences. I don't feel like you can. I think you do just get constant.
I think fallen enemies constantly spawn.
So unless they do change it to where you can clear out stuff to a certain extent to like push that up, like that one would be pretty rough. And then especially that room after that's like kind of small, and you gotta like dunk like the things in that bell or whatever. That's like a small room to like fight all that shit that you fight in that room. Like I don't know.
Yeah, and there's like enemies spawning in each corner in that room.
Yeah, constantly. I feel like that. I don't know if I don't know if they could get away with making either of those into it. I guess they can try, but man, I really I think that those would be overkill. Where I could see like I feel like the heist Europa one would not be that bad, in my opinion, at least. I think that's the one where you're going through the stealth section outside first, and then and then you go into the Clovis. Then you go into the Clovis Bray like area, just because like it has bigger environments, and those like the Clovis areas have a lot more like cover.
The only
spots.
The encounter, like third real room fight, where you're like fighting around Clovis's big dumb head. That would be pretty fucking shitty.
Yeah,
a lot of servitors.
You basically just hide in that back room for as long as you can when you first get there. Like that would be
doable, but it would not be super fun.
Yeah. And then that's the boss for that one is the Scorn boss, right? Or no, that's the Scorn boss.
But the trouble is like the boss for all three heist battlegrounds is like
functionally the same. And that kind of sucks. Similarly, I would say like the Psyops ones are all pretty samey too. So like I griped about that last episode, but regardless, I feel like the Europa one to me at least would be like the one I look at and go like, okay, I think I could like that one makes more sense to me than the other ones at least, and it seems doable. Where like any other one just seems so miserable, and it seems like they will get to those ones because they said they will be battlegrounds this season and next season. So maybe they do end up going back to those Season of the Chosen battlegrounds for stuff. I don't know.
Yeah, it's fun. It's weird because like of those, weirdly enough, the Proving Grounds strike is like the most battlegrounds option there.
Yeah,
and it's better. I think so too. Do that. The Nessus one where you're fighting off dudes a lot in the beginning, and then you have to throw the bombs around.
Yeah, that one's like that one I think would be pretty brutal with that section with the three oracles. But then like but then like there's like the other one where it's like you're defending the Cosmodrome one. I think would be pretty rough too. Yeah, there's just a crap ton of enemies. But those areas are like shit. Like the Nessus, there's a lot of Nessus ones. So
the one I'm thinking where you go down to where like Insight Terminus area is, and then you have to fight all the wyverns with the shields.
Yeah, that
sucks.
That one would be very miserable as a GM. Yeah. Ugh. And then there's the Cosmodrome one, and then there's the other Nessus one that's like. You like go over it has all the ships
like that'll drop ships in the beginning.
Yeah, that'll immediately wipe you for every battleground you do. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, those, I don't know, would be that much more fun either, I think. But
yeah, it's a tough pick, let's say.
But well, I guess we'll see whatever one they do. We'll know in just about a week here.
Yeah, we should talk about it because, like, next time we record, presumably next week, I mean, the episode will go out, maybe a day before the showcase?
Yep. That's probably how it'll play out.
We should lay down. We're going to be there for the showcase.
Yep. Watching live. We're watching live
on
the 22nd.
TV.
Yep.
/ Irrational Passions.
Mm-hmm.
And then we're probably going to stream a little of the season afterward, hanging out, playing Destiny.
That's right.
And that's the game plan.
That is the game plan for August 22nd. Yeah, we'll have one more episode. Might go up right before that.
Get ahead of it.
Yeah, for sure. We'll be there live, watching and reacting to all that stuff. Yeah, the reaction will probably be also uploaded here on Helm to Tower afterwards. Whatever we think, and then of course we'll be back with an episode after that to talk about it. But yeah, next episode I think would be fun to, I'm sure we'll have more news to talk about, whatever they talk about next week for articles and stuff. Maybe like maybe
about the aspect.
Maybe about the aspects. Yeah, I could see that. That makes sense. I mean, we'll get like a little teaser or something, final shape teaser potentially or something. But yeah, we'll maybe make some like final predictions about what we hope to see here. Yeah, we'll be doing that next episode on Helm to Tower. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thanks everybody for watching here on YouTube or listening on podcasts, wherever you're doing that. We appreciate it very much for sticking with us.
Even if Google doesn't post the podcast for
for whatever reason, Google
have no control over that.
Google decides to take a break for a day and just not post our podcast for a reason. But every other place does. Spotify and Amazon. I think we're even on like Amazon Podcasts or some weird shit. But yeah, regardless where you're listening or watching, thank you as always, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.